Welcome in everybody to Untold Sports Stories with Gerardo Byrne. Got a special guest with me, head coach of our Earlham's baseball team, Coach Steve Sakosits. How you doing, Coach?
Hey man, how you doing?
Doing good. Thank you for coming on.
Hey, I appreciate the opportunity to do this with you.
Yes, sir. So what we're going to get into today is his background into the sport of baseball, his upbringing in the world of sports. We'll talk about how he got his start into coaching and what led him to coach Earlham baseball. And then we'll talk about how his coaching career at Earlham has gone so far. So, Coach, let's get into it. We'll start from the beginning. What is your background into the sport of baseball?
Well, I'm originally from New Jersey. Grew up there. Was in Jersey all the way up through high school. Had a really good high school career. Had opportunities to go play college baseball at a lot of different places around the country. The main ones I was looking at was staying in Jersey and either going to Seton Hall or Rutgers. Had an opportunity to go down to Florida at Florida Atlantic was one of my opportunities, and then the other one I was considering was Xavier. Xavier was the only one, though, that was going to recruit me as a two-way player, which was going to be I was an outfielder and pitcher, and I wasn't ready to give up on one or the other yet. So Seton Hall and Rutgers and Florida Atlantic all wanted me just to pitch. And so it came down to it. Went out to Xavier, really loved the opportunity there. There was one of my high school teammates was a senior when I was going to be a freshman, so I already knew someone there was in the program. So decided to go to Xavier, did 4 years there, had a great opportunity, was a two-way guy, ended up at the end of my career just being a pitcher only, but I kind of realized that at that point because I was a pretty good hitter in BP, but come game time when you were able to throw breaking balls and plus fastballs, I was struggling a little bit on that part. So did well on the mound, had some possible opportunities to go play past college, more so independent baseball, and then some opportunities overseas. But going from my junior to senior year, I had elbow surgery, so my velocity from junior to senior year went down. However, I actually pitched more innings my senior year, just wasn't as good as the velocity. So did a couple tryouts. Actually, in some of the tryouts, ended up deciding to go submarine just because over the top as a righty, if you're hitting only 88, 89, it's not going to get a lot of people interested, especially in baseball right now where most guys are topping out at 98 to 102. So did some tryouts there, but really wanted to maybe see if I wanted to get into coaching. I didn't want to leave the sport yet. Really loved my opportunity that I had as a student athlete in college baseball and wanted to see about that opportunity. So I applied at actually a team in our conference, Defiance College. Interesting story with that, though. Both my dad and my stepmom went to Defiance College, so there was a connection there. Applied for their graduate assistant job, which, for those who don't know what a GA job is basically they cover your room, board, and tuition, and they give you a small stipend to coach. So I made it was actually $300 a month. However, the government's still taxing that, so I only made $248 after taxes. But I got my master's degree taken care of. I have a master's in education with a sports science focus. Got to coach 2 years, and then that brought me, when my master's is done, it's a 2-year program. You can only do 2 years at that school at Defiance. So came over and was looking at different opportunities. I had some Division I kind of volunteer opportunities, and then there was an opportunity here at Earlham as an assistant coach for a brand new head coach at the time, John Cate. Came over, interviewed, actually was here for 9 hours on that interview. It was a really long time, but I saw the bones of this place, saw that this place could be pretty special, and knew that the academics were high. And when you can sell academics, that's the main thing you want to make sure your opportunity talking to students about. So had that, applied, was lucky enough to get that job, did that for 2 years. John Cate decided that he wanted to retire, and so I applied for the head job here. And 10 years later, here I am as the head baseball coach at Earlham. If you would have asked me when I first got here if I would have been here for a total of 12 years now, I probably would have not said that was going to be true, but I've really come to love this place and what this place is about, and I truly believe that Earlham is a sleeping giant with everything we have available to us here facility-wise, now with adding a strength and conditioning coach for our athletic teams, and then the number one thing, you're always selling an academic product that is second to none, and we can sell kids on and families on. They're going to get a degree here that's going to set them up for life, so I really believe that this is a great place, and I've loved being here for the 12 years I have.
Yes, sir. What got you into baseball as a kid?
It really was. I'd love to say it was my parents, but they never really played baseball. I played all sports when I was younger. I played soccer, basketball, a little bit of football, and played baseball. And when I first started, I wasn't very good at it. And then somehow kind of going into the 5th and 6th grade, I kind of matured a little bit more. I got a little bit taller and ended up kind of physically coming around a little bit and was able to kind of get a little bit better and start enjoying it. And once you have success with something, kind of makes you like it a little bit better too. So did that and loved it ever since.
Yes, sir. I'd like to get a lot of coaches' opinions on this. You said you played a multitude of sports growing up. How do you feel nowadays about kids now sticking to one sport at an early age, or do you encourage multiple sports growing up?
I hate that kids only play one sport. I absolutely hate it. I think that it's made a less athletic, in our sport, a less athletic baseball player. In baseball, it's very much a linear sport where you're just moving up and forwards and backwards. But at times, if you're an infielder or you're an outfielder, if you're playing outfield and you've got to go back on a baseball, well, it's a good correlation if you're playing DB in football, because you got to open those hips up, go back and go get a football, in this case go get a baseball. Same thing if you're maybe a point guard in basketball or a defender in basketball, you got to get low, move your feet. Same thing as an infielder. If you're an infielder, you got to move left and right as well too. So I really think it's taken away from the ability for that baseball player to be more athletic by just focusing. So when I look at a recruit that is playing multiple sports in high school, I love it, because they're really not polished in baseball yet because they haven't had a chance to focus on it. And I like that. I like that the opportunity that they've learned from other sports and been able to take some athletic ability from the other sports and bring it into baseball. And then when you get a chance to focus as you're 18, 19 years old, then you can kind of take those things and mature a bit into the sport, and you never know what kind of player you can get when they haven't focused on it before. And I really love that opportunity to be able to get those two-way guys. Now, it's not like we won't recruit a guy that's only played one sport, but I kind of look at that player as a player that can really develop because they just never had time to focus before on it.
Yeah, I hate that nowadays. Kids just focus on one sport. I feel like, one, you're just putting all this time into one sport. It takes away from maybe the fun of growing up a little bit, getting to meet new people, playing different sports. And I was lucky enough to play multiple sports as a kid. Playing multiple sports, I played football, basketball, and baseball all the way through high school. Well, baseball I stopped after my sophomore year, but playing that long. But when did you decide that baseball wanted to be the route you wanted to take?
So in high school, I was a 3-sport varsity player as a freshman. So I played varsity basketball, varsity football, varsity baseball. And the one thing for me is when it got time for my main sport, baseball, I was super tired, because I had been doing all that stuff up until that point. And to me, if that's my main sport, I can't be tired for that. So after my freshman year, I decided to stop playing football and focused on basketball and baseball, because I figured that basketball at least would get me in the cardio shape that I needed to be as a pitcher and be able to still do things on the side for baseball. But I was able to play fall ball now because I wasn't playing football. I was able to do some fall ball stuff and help me in the showcase circuit. But really being a pretty good baseball player after high school, no one was calling for basketball, and honestly, I wasn't really interested in doing that. Now, I could have maybe gone to a smaller, maybe a Division III level and maybe done both, but for me, I was ready to just focus at that point, because similar to what I was saying about the recruit, I never had a chance to focus just before, and I wanted to see how good I could be.
My next point is going to be a little bit off topic, because I'm actually just kind of curious about that. Pitchers have to be in great cardio shape. I asked, why do pitchers are normally in such great, and pitchers do a lot more running than I see, than I would expect from a pitcher, knowing it's a lot about the arm. Mm-hmm. What does cardio have to do with being able to be a good pitcher?
So just sustainability through a game. So if your stamina is up, you can build up stamina, then you're going to last longer in a game, because you're not just using your arm. If you're using just your arm, you're going to be more of a reliever, because your arm can only take you so much. Mm-hmm. As I tell guys, there's only so many bullets in the gun. You've got to use other parts of your body. So if we can build up lower half strength and core strength, it allows us to not just rely on our arm. Same thing too, we need to do a lot of shoulder exercises to make sure that if the shoulder's strong, it'll still stabilize the elbow. If this is weak, then this will drop, and that's what happened in my situation. Why I had elbow surgery is because I just was on a weaker shoulder, dropped my elbow, and kept bleeding with that. But for pitchers in that scenario, you want to have a good combination. You want to have the distance part of it so that you can sustain, but also you want to have a sprint part. You want to be able to have those short bursts of movements as well too. But that's kind of why you see more pitchers doing more cardio work than maybe a position player does, just because of they've got to be out there for upwards of 100 to 110 pitches. Anywhere from, in this level, we're looking to get anywhere from 6 to 8 innings out of those pitchers. And if they're going to go that consistently, they've got to be able to build up that stamina to be able to sustain throughout that whole game.
Yes, sir. You mentioned you quit football after freshman year and focused on basketball and baseball. When did you start to realize, or when did the recruiters start coming to see you and realizing that, you know what, I can actually take this to possibly the next level and even go in Division One?
My freshman year, I basically, after the freshman year summer, that I basically got a book that had all the addresses of all Division I colleges in the country. And at that time, this is 2000 and probably 99, 2000s, my freshman and my freshman year. And email wasn't as big then, so I'm handwriting letters to these schools that I had interest in. And we're talking big-time schools. We're talking Florida, Miami, LSU, all those schools. I'm sending them all to them, and even sent one to Xavier at that time. And just kind of getting my name out there. I didn't really go to the showcase circuit much until after my sophomore, junior year, and that's kind of where more people saw me at. But initially making that effort to go out there and try to get my name out there. And in fact, I still have one letter from Xavier where I ended up going that they wrote me back and said that they don't take walk-ons on their team, which basically meant they didn't even read my letter. And I said when I first got, I'm never going to go to that place. And then they offered me a scholarship, and I decided to go there. So I hate to say it, money talks. But for me, it really was after that sophomore into my junior year when I took a lot of showcases, and I was a high velocity guy off the mound. I mean, in high school, I was upper 8s, low 90s, and was able to showcase myself there. Also played for a scout team from the Minnesota Twins. So I was playing with the best players in the region with the Twins organization, and so we were led by the head East Coast scout of the Twins. So by knowing him, he knew people that got me out there, and so it was really good on the showcase circuit to get myself seen. But the one thing I would tell parents, and I tell parents all the time when I talk to groups of families, is save your money. At the majority of the time, if you're going to a Division I school, Division I baseball only has 11.7 scholarships. And so that means that if you're divvying that out for a 35-man roster, not everybody's going to get a scholarship. It's not like football. It's not like basketball. It's not a revenue-generating sport. So save your money in the front end. Don't go to all these showcases and spend all this money. You can go ahead and create a free YouTube account. You have an iPhone. You have an Android phone. You can film yourself. You can upload those videos on there. You can do it all yourself. You just got to do the work as opposed to paying someone to do that work for you. And then directly go to those showcases that you actually have an idea that you can play at. Now, just like myself early on, I had those dreams that I can go big, but you got to be realistic in where you can go there. So the more you can save money out of high school and not spend it on going all these different showcases and doing that, save your money up and use it towards college, because you're most likely going to have to pay for something to go to college, and that'll help you on the long run there.
I mean, I know you end up getting a scholarship to Xavier, but is that based on experience? You've said you played at a lot of showcases, but was that also causing a lot of money to come out of your family?
So I was lucky enough that I had a full ride at Xavier. So I was one of very few players on our roster that had that. But it was an opportunity that's one of the main reasons why I went there. And in fact, the scout that for the Twins that I was playing for, he basically said they're paying you to go to the Midwest, and he really wanted me to go south and do that. But he was saying they're paying you to go to colder weather. But at that point, when I could look at a great degree that I could have gotten from Xavier, and I did get from Xavier, and the opportunity which they were telling me that I could do both there, that was a big selling point for me. And so I was a kid coming out of high school. I didn't know what I wanted to study major-wise. I was really into film, and I thought maybe I wanted to be a director. Maybe I wanted to do something with that, or I ended up becoming a criminal justice major, and Lord knows I'm not doing anything with that right now, but it just tells you that if you can get a degree and you can have motivation, you can do anything. So for me, it was just getting that opportunity, being lucky to be seen, having the opportunity to be offered a scholarship because of the way I played, but it wasn't like I went to 10,000 different showcases. I just was selective in the ones I went to, and went to some ones that you had to be invited to go to as well.
Full ride to Xavier. You talked about FA.
It's Xavier.
Xavier?
Yeah, Xavier.
My bad.
That's like nails at a chalkboard for a Xavier fan when you hear Xavier.
Okay, full ride to Xavier. You got recruited to FAU, correct? Mm-hmm. And then you mentioned staying local for Rutgers and Seton Hall, and I'm sure you knew all about those two schools growing up in the New Jersey area. What was the recruiting process like, not only for Division I, and you mentioned that Xavier offered you to play. Xavier offered you to play both two-way positions, but is that the main thing you were looking at going into recruiting, or that's just something that separated itself?
It was. I just didn't think I was done with being a hitter. I thought that I had some better ability to be able to do that. Just because in high school, I thought that I was pretty good at both being an outfielder and pitching. It also came down to money. The offers that I got at mainly FAU and Xavier. FAU's offer wasn't in comparison to Xavier, but they were also paying me to go down to Florida, and that was kind of the selling point. You're getting this and playing in Florida as opposed to going there and playing in the Midwest there. But I thought the recruiting experience was very overwhelming. I did a lot of other visits as well, too. I went to, I had a great visit at Xavier, and then on the way home, I'm not going to say the school, but went to a school in Philadelphia, and we actually ended up leaving the visit early just because it was horrible, and it was another Division I school, and it was a place that I'm like they're not even taking it seriously on this part, so didn't end up going there. But it was an overwhelming experience just because, as a 17-year-old kid, 18-year-old kid, you got a lot of pressure on you. And as you know, I mean, I'm sure it's the same thing you did when you decided to come to Earlham. This is a decision that's not only setting you up for 4 years, but for 40 years of your life. And what's going to help you get the right spot? And for me, it was I wanted to get a great degree. I wanted to be able to not have my family take out a ton of money for college, but then I also wanted to have the place that was going to maybe be able to get me the most exposure early, that if I was good enough to play past college, that I was getting on the field to do that. And so that's what the opportunity, mainly what Xavier was giving me compared to maybe some other places.
I'd like to get your opinion on this because aspect for me coming out to Earlham was, going far away from the family to learn how to become independent person, learn how to become a man. I ask every coach and every player that on the show this, what was your feeling about going far away from the New Jersey area and being away from your family from the first time? Some say they don't like it. Some say they were the first ones to jump on it.
Yeah, I was all about getting away. That was the one thing about getting out of Jersey and not going to Rutgers or Seton Hall, is just because I've been in Jersey my whole life and I wanted to experience something different. Being from the New York metropolitan area, college sports aren't big. When I came out and went to the Midwest, and you look at how serious they take Ohio State and Michigan, all the college sports around here, professional sports are seeing that on the East Coast. College sports are seen that way in the Midwest. And so I wanted to be somewhere where college sports were celebrated. And that's what I felt like at Xavier, when you got a perennial top 25 basketball team and you're going to big time games in the Cintas Center there for basketball. And, when I saw that experience there, I'm like, I'm not going to get this at Seton Hall or Rutgers if I go there. And the same thing, FAU early on. FAU had just added football at that time when I was looking there. It was more of, as they told me, it was more of a suitcase college. It was a lot of Miami University transfers that went from Miami, didn't like it, and ended up going to FAU and would live at home. So I really didn't want that situation either. So I thought coming to the Midwest was a good opportunity for me, and really liked the idea of getting away from home a bit. I'm still about 10 hours from home. When I was down in Cincinnati, it was about 9.5. So you could still go home, but it was going to take you about a day to do it.
You get to Xavier, and
Xavier.
It's going to take me a while. Right? Kind of just like how when people get here, they call it
Earlham. Earlham. How about Earlham?
Okay, so you get to Xavier.
Xavier.
It's going to take me a minute. So did you, when you got there your freshman year, did you see time as a freshman, or was it you were behind a great pitching staff and it was more about learning?
Yeah, so I actually didn't even pitch my freshman year. I just played outfield, and so I had some elbow issues going into my freshman year. So they basically said, we're going to only have you focus on outfield work as a freshman, and then we're going to get you to rehab back and pitch after that. So I started a ton of games in right field as a freshman. I'm very tough on myself, and I did not have a great freshman year. I played a lot, got a lot of ABs. I had 100 plus ABs as a freshman. Started in majority of the games that we had. Just didn't have a ton of success on the offensive side of things. And to me, what I loved about doing the dual thing is if I ever struggled at, let's say, the offensive side on the outfield part, I always had the pitching part to back me up to say, well, if I'm not doing this great, I still have this. Well, I wasn't able to do that year because my arm wasn't healthy enough to do it. So it was a really difficult year for me, struggling a lot. I had some ups and downs, but the big thing was I was able to come in, play a lot, and as a freshman, ate a lot of humble pizza because I wasn't very good internally, knowing that the scholarship I have, and there's other guys on the team that don't have the scholarship that I have. There's a lot of internal pressure on me, knowing that they're expecting a lot of me. They're expecting me to come in. They wouldn't have given me this money if I was playing the way that I am. In Division I, an athletic scholarship is only a 1-year deal. You can come back the next year and they can not offer you that amount of money. So that's a lot of people don't understand that, is if you don't perform, that coaching staff can pull the money. Luckily, they didn't do that part of it. But I struggled a lot as a freshman. Was able to get in, as I said, a lot of time, but was able to learn more about myself and understand that you got to take the sport seriously, but you can't take it so seriously where you're beating yourself up and not having fun with it. So I was able to learn that part of it a lot in the freshman year.
With playing a lot your freshman year, talk about what was the adjustment like from going from a high school level to Division I?
I mean, mainly it's just the velocity the pitchers had and the stuff that they had with that. So in high school, you're going to maybe see a few pitchers that have frontline stuff, and they'll have a fastball, but the odds of them having a secondary pitch, a breaking ball, changeup, something else like that they can consistently throw for strikes is not so often. In college, in the teams that we're playing, we're going up against, right now a guy named Tim Stauffer, who was in the first-round pick of the San Diego Padres, pitched for them for a while. He was at the University of Richmond, was in our conference. There were some other guys that we faced that year as well, too, that were some big-time arms that were ended up playing in the pros. Craig Stamen, who is actually still in the bigs right now, he pitched at Dayton when I was there, when I was at Xavier. So facing a lot of guys like that with plus stuff, so we're talking fastballs in the low to mid-90s, plus secondary stuff, breaking balls, changeup, sliders that were plus as well, too. And so in high school, you can sit back and realize that if you get in a positive count, 3-0, 3-1, they're going to come with a fastball that I can be able to sit back and drive it. In college, if they get behind in the count, they can still flip a breaking ball in there when you're thinking fastball and then get back himself in the count. And then as a hitter, you're guessing a lot of what's coming next.
Yeah.
And if you're guessing, you're going to struggle.
Yeah, I did that a lot in high school. I could, but you said it right. I wasn't playing a lot of big arm pitchers, so I can kind of anticipate the pitches that were going to come at me next. Transitioning into sophomore year, you were able to get back on the mound. When you were able to get back on the mound, were you able to finally get back to that comfort level you had?
Yeah, so I was able to, again, I played a lot of right field, and then I was also our closer on the mound, so I was able to do that as well, and that was able to, even though I still struggled offensively as a hitter, I was able to use the pitching part to be able to help me develop it and calm myself down and realize, like, hey, I can do this. And so closed my sophomore year, had some pretty good numbers sophomore year as well, on the pitching side, not on the offensive side, but it really helped me realize that I could do it. And then also, in college baseball, it's about where you go play in the summertime. And so, after my freshman year, I went to a league in Maryland called, at the time, the Clark Griffith League, is now called the Cal Ripken League. And I was playing at UMBC in Maryland, spent the whole summer there playing baseball, had the opportunity to pitch a little bit in the summertime too. So working myself back into it and getting a little more experience and a little bit more success as well too, which leads to confidence. When you have success, you have confidence. The more confidence you have, the more success you're going to have as well.
Why, or let's just say as a coach, what makes the summertime so important? Normally you hear a lot of coaches say after the season's finished, you like to get like maybe a few weeks off and get some rest. But it seems like once a baseball season finishes, baseball players jump right into the summer season. So baseball being a year-round sport, is that a healthy thing for players to play year-round but possibly not get as much rest as maybe other sports have in off-season?
So when we recruit a kid here at Earlham as well too, we talk about the summer baseball, but we tell the recruits we never force a player to play summer baseball. We say if we've recruited the right kid here, they want to play because they love playing. And God willing, you're able to play past college, but if you're not able to play past college, you only have 4 years left to play in your baseball career, and you want to get as much opportunity to do that. Now, let's say, if you're pitching for me and you threw upwards of 70 to 80 innings for Earlham, I'm probably not going to, I say I really want you to go out and play because, if you're throwing in the fall and the winter and the spring and the summertime, you're never resting at that point. So as a pitcher, we might say, hey, you know what, if you want to just go work out in the summertime, lift and throw on the side, I'm fine with that. As a hitter, you can always swing. You can always see live pitching. You can always do those things. But the arms are the one you got to be careful for because, again, coming from a guy who's had arm surgery, the last thing I want to have is where a pitcher of ours has an arm surgery because of something that we did. And luckily, in my 14 years of college coaching, I've only had one player have to have arm surgery, which is a credit to what we've been able to do to listen to our pitchers and see how they're feeling. You can throw through being sore. You can't throw through being hurt. And we tell our guys all the time, we can live to throw the next day. And so we do a lot of arm care to help our kids stay healthy. But really, the summer baseball part, it's kind of like you've always heard the adage of, maybe someone's dad or parents have always told them one thing, but then they go to an individual coach or a coach and they tell them the exact same thing, but they listen to that person. Well, it's the same thing playing summer baseball. When you go, and in my case, when I was playing in this different summer leagues, I'm playing with players from Vanderbilt and LSU and Ohio State and all these different places, and even some small schools, some Division III schools as well too, and kind of seeing how they go about business. Not so much what the coaches are saying, but what do you do to get your two-seam action, or what do you do to be able to get yourself in conditioning for the off season? And really teaches you work ethic to kind of see those guys at other places and what they're doing. Especially one of my good buddies was a closer at Vanderbilt, and talking to him about, what he's doing at Vandy and what I'm doing and how I can take the work ethic that he puts in there and learn from his coaching staff and make myself better at my place.
After your sophomore year at Xavier, got it right.
Babe.
There you go. What were the last 2 years at Xavier like, and when did the decision, either by you or the coaching staff, come to now you're just a pitcher?
So, interesting thing about Xavier. So after my sophomore year, they made a coaching change. So I had a new coach for my junior year, and actually had a new coach my senior year. So I played for 3 head coaches in my 4 years at Xavier. And again, as a guy that's got a high scholarship, with new guys coming in, you don't know if they're going to recognize that scholarship that you have there. But luckily, both those coaches did. So new coach came in. He's still, and his name was Dan Simons. After he came from Miami University in Oxford, was the assistant coach there. Came to Xavier, was there at Xavier for 1 year, and then took the head job at Miami, and is now actually running the baseball academy at IMG down in Florida. So he's big time there. Great dude. But when he came in, he was going to have me do both. And then after a while, come the beginning of the season, when I was doing both, but I wasn't doing really much of the position player stuff, I was only seeing game action as a pitcher, I kind of said to myself, why am I doing both here when I can just focus on one at this point and get myself to be as good as I can be? So at that point, we just made the decision that I was going to focus on just being a pitcher. And so what did I end up doing my junior and senior year is I was closer for the weekends and midweek starter. So I'd close the conference games, and I'd start the midweek non-conference games and do that. And I did that for my last 2 years there, and found a lot of success on that. And I'm somewhere in the top 10 in Xavier's history in appearances. Had a really good junior year with my ERA and stats and all that stuff. But again, going to the surgery, going from junior to senior year, kind of dropped my velocity a bit. But that's kind of how it went there with the new coaching staff coming in. They didn't have, they had other good outfielders that came in that were better than me. So I said, okay, if I'm going to help this team, how can I help this team the most, and how can I get the most out of my ability? And it was basically just focusing on being on the mound.
So once you graduate Xavier, and you touched on it a little bit earlier about pro ball, was there high interest in playing professional?
Yeah, no, I mean, I always, kind of going back to high school and playing for that twin scout team, I always had an interest of seeing, what I could do. I always wanted to play pro baseball. But, after, going after my junior, I had a lot of interest, be a pro team, but also independent baseball as well, too. And I honestly, I was one of those guys, I didn't care. If I was going to play baseball, it was going to be, if they're going to pay me, I don't care if they're paying me 1 penny or $100,000. I just wanted to play.
Yes, sir.
And, coming out of the junior year, I had a lot of interest, but then pitching in summer baseball, kind of going back to the thing, I actually hurt my elbow pitching in the summer, and that's where I basically had to have surgery in the summertime, get shut down, didn't pitch at all the fall of my senior year, really started throwing a little bit in the winter time of my senior year, and then come and pitched in my senior year. But after that, and the rehab and all the things there, and kind of seeing my velocity go down, I said, you know what, it's probably not the best thing for me to be a player in the game of baseball, but maybe I can add something else, be it a coach or some aspect of being still involved in the game.
Do you feel like you would have turned the coaching route had you not got hurt?
I mean, do you know what you're doing once you graduate?
I got an idea.
Yeah, you got an idea.
I got what I want to
you
do.
got
but
what
I
you
can't
want to
say
do.
What I will do.
Exactly. So that's the same thing coming out. Like, most of the guys that we have in our program, and a lot of the students that here at Earlham, they have an idea what they want to do, but also they really don't know what they want to do, and they just want to have that opportunity. So for me, it was, I want to do something job-wise that I'm not going to dread waking up or going to bed on a Sunday night, having to wake up Monday morning and do that thing. I want to have it where I'm excited to go to work the next day and enjoy what I do. And obviously, pay has to be a part of that. But in what we do in coaching, you don't really make a ton of money, especially at this level. But I love what I do. I love being around the student athletes. I love being around not just my baseball players, but at a place like Earlham where I've got an interaction with all the different student athletes. You and I have a great relationship. My wife being the volunteer assistant coach for the women's soccer team, I got a great relationship with those women. And the coaches up and down the hallway. I think at Earlham we've got a great group of coaches that, really root for each other. And I want to see the basketball team do well. I want to see the lacrosse team do well. I want to see the baseball team do well. I want to see all of us do well because, you know what? Selfishly, when they do well and I bring recruits on, it's a fun atmosphere for those kids to see them play. And then same thing when our kids are celebrating those teams and then it's our team the time to play, those kids come over and see us play as well. Yes, so I love that aspect of it.
Yes, sir. And you mentioned Defiance was where you got your coaching start. Mm-hmm. What made you, first off, look at Defiance? I mean, You come from New Jersey. Did you hear about Defiance while you were at Xavier?
Well, so as I said, both my dad and my stepmom went to Defiance.
Okay, there we go,
so they went there, and it was kind of interesting. When I graduated Xavier, I had just accepted kind of that GA role at Defiance. So we're having a grad party at my house in Jersey, and my dad was more pumped that I got the Defiance. So he's got like purple and gold balloons around for my graduation party for Xavier, which had nothing to do with Xavier, had everything to do with Defiance. But they were pumped about that and the opportunity, and I just wanted to get my foot in the door. And to be honest with you, when you can get a GA job where they're going to pay for your master's, and honestly, anybody who's going to get a master's, I would suggest do it right after you graduate, because the more you wait on that, the more you're going to say, I don't have the time to do it. But literally being right out of school, still being able to put the time in, know what it's like to study, the GA spot was great for me. And now I've got a master's, which I think is something that's great next to my name.
Yes, sir. And you were at Defiance for how long?
2 years. So it's a 2 year. So you only get 2 years to get your master's done,
sir.
And they at that time don't have full-time assistants. So once your GA job is done, then they bring in the next GA behind them. So they tried to create a position to keep me there, but it wasn't really going to work out there. And honestly, I didn't know if I was really going to find anything outside of baseball. I told you I had those other opportunities, but I also interviewed at a rock station down in Cincinnati called 92.3 Rock or 96 Rock, K-Rock down in Cincinnati, as going to do media sales and advertisement sales, but I didn't want to get out of baseball, and I didn't decide to do that part. So,
what did you learn as a grad assistant coaching for Defiance?
And just kind of going to the scenario there. So I had 2 head coaches in my time as being a GA. So let's go back. So I had 3 head coaches in college. I had 2 head coaches at Defiance. I had another head coach I worked for here, but my first year at Earlham. So we're talking at 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 coaches in 4, 5, 6, 7 years. I was either playing for or coached underneath. So at Defiance, I learned a lot of things from how this coach goes about doing what he does to how I wouldn't do this if I was a head coach. And I think a great assistant coach, when they get their opportunity to become a head coach, is they take from different places of what they would do, but they still make it theirs. As a first-time coach, when I became an assistant coach, I try to do everything that my coaches at Xavier's did. Same thing from the way I inflected my voice and do all that. And then I'm realized that's not who I am. I'm a guy that needs to be fun-loving as well as being kind of hard as well too. I want the players to know we're going to be serious when we're between the white lines, but then also off the field, we're going to make sure we have fun as well with it as well too with that part. So kind of learning from making my own, as well as what I wouldn't do from what those guys did.
And after your GA was up, that's when you applied to become an assistant coach here at Earlham. And what made you choose Earlham?
Well, really, it was between the opportunities of getting out of baseball, which I wasn't sure I wanted to do, and then the other opportunities at the the Division I level was more of a volunteer position, more so than I was going to get paid. I wanted to take an opportunity where I was going to get some money. So Earlham was going to pay me as an assistant coach at that time, and it still really is. Earlham pays our assistants as full-time assistants with benefits. A lot of the coaches that we have in our conference are not full-time assistant coaches at those Division III schools, so I was blessed to get that opportunity, and knew it was another way to keep me in, where also I could, again, get a little bit of money. Was
it just about staying in the Midwest, or were you searching all over the country?
I was searching all over the country, but I really loved being closer to Cincinnati, which, being in Richmond, it's closer there, again, especially coming from Defiance. And Defiance really, great town, but there's not much to it. In Richmond, we probably complain a little bit too much about the town not having much, but, you got every restaurant here. You've got everything you need between a mall and a movie theater and all those kind of things. So we have stuff, plus we're close enough, an hour away from either, Dayton or Cincinnati, or a little bit longer to Indianapolis. There's a lot of things that are positive for us to be able to still do, but kind of staying closer to Cincinnati with my college friends being close there as well.
When you got hired at Earlham, remind me of the head coach's name you were coaching?
John Cate.
John Cate. Did he somehow give you any kind of warning, or give this? Was there any? I can't find a word right now, that he was only going to be there 2 years, or?
So he had actually, the year that I got hired assistant, that was his first year, going to be the first year's head coach. So he had just gotten hired as well.
Okay.
And what's interesting about John, John and I were the first ever full-time baseball staff. So before John, the head baseball coach was also the defensive coordinator for football. So a lot of the teams that were at Earlham prior to that were a combination of players would play football in the fall and then come out for baseball in the spring. And that's why I really think that one, the football team had success because there was a lot of good athletes there, but maybe the baseball team didn't have success because they didn't have those players in the fall to develop them, and so they were playing football at that time. And the same thing, if your head coach is solely working as a defensive coordinator for football, what we're doing right now, or what I was doing in the fall, we're bringing recruits on. Yes. He's not doing that because he's focusing on the next week's game plan for that team. So when John and I came in, we knew we were going to be the first ever full-time baseball staff that could really put a focus on recruiting for baseball and trying to build that program up when they didn't have much success in the past, at least record-wise.
Yes, sir. And 2 years go by, he retires, and you get hired as the head coach of Earlham. What was that feeling like, knowing you just now got an entire program to be able to set up your own way?
Yeah, so it was kind of an interesting story on the interview. So I was actually, before I got the head job, I was associate head coach as an assistant. And when I interviewed for it, I had to do the whole thing. I mean, even through the phone interview, I had to be in my office in wellness, calling down to my athletic director in the other hallway to do my phone interview. I had to go through the whole process on there, and it was really, gut-wrenching to think I put a lot of hard work in 2 years. Am I not going to get the opportunity as hard as I've worked to be able to see this thing through? Luckily, I was able to be named, and it was probably the greatest feeling I've ever had. I was very nervous because, I asked my head coach at Xavier, Scott Guggens, the coach was my last year, who actually is right now the head baseball coach at the University of Cincinnati. I said, Coach, when did you know you were ready to become a head coach? And he says, Sack, you never know. You just got to do it. You got to be confident in what you're doing. You never know when you get it, but when you get that opportunity, make the most of it. And that's what happened with me. Is at 27 years old, I was the youngest head baseball coach in the country, and I had a lot of energy, and I was really excited about taking on that task of trying to build this thing into what hopefully we're going to be.
So now this is your first head coaching job. What did you want to establish in your first year as the head coach?
The main thing that I felt that I wanted to do for the program at Earlham is continue to sell the success that we've had in the classroom, because we really couldn't sell the success on the field that we had yet. But I could sell that this is one of the best institutions in the country. You're going to get a degree here that's going to set you apart than other places you can look at. So I want to make sure we led with that, but then also said, you know what, though, we're going to build a baseball program that's going to be on par with what we are academically. When you look at the best schools in the country, both athletically and academically, looking at Stanfords and Dukes and those types of places, well, why can't we be that of the Division III level? Why can't we be the best academically, the best athletically, that sets us apart from those other schools that maybe have one or the other? Maybe good academics but bad baseball, or good baseball but not great academics. So I knew we had the academic part, which we could, establish ourselves as being really good at that, and then hopefully build a baseball program. With that too, though, wanted to kind of use my Division I experience as saying that I want to turn this into the Division I of Division III, so that I'm going to build an experience here that if we can attract that Division I type player, and then say, instead of going to that level and maybe sitting and waiting your turn, come here and we're going to give you just as good, if not a better experience than what you would get at the Division I level. And I knew we could do that just because of the scholarship schedule I was telling you before. At 11.7 scholarships, there's a lot of good players in Division I that aren't getting money.
Yes, sir.
In football and basketball, you're pretty much fully funded to give those kids full rides there. But in baseball, I knew that if we can be competitive in some scholarships here, they're still going to be on scholarship when they come here. This is not going to be tied to athletics.
Yes,
so
sir.
how can I sell that same, you're going to come here, have a chance to help us get to that level, and the more selfishly, the more Division I type players I get here, the better we're going to do.
Yes, sir. When did you start seeing the turnaround in the program?
So it was really year 4. So my 4th year here, my first true recruiting class I had in here was the first winning season in 43 years at Earlham. So it really kind of let me step back and say, everything I was selling to that first class, saying that you guys come in here and by the time you leave as seniors, we're going to turn this thing around, was absolutely true. And when you can, as a coach, step back and say, these are the things that we were preaching to our players, and we were actually able to accomplish that, it meant a lot. And so from there, building recruiting classes, not only with talent, but also numbers as well, too, because you have to have numbers within a team, because you're not going to be able to stay healthy throughout a year. You got to make sure you have enough depth in there. So recruiting good players and depth as well to help us continue to establish this. So from my first winning season in 2014 to going to the conference tournament for the first time in 2015, to going to the conference championship for the first time in 2016, to winning the conference championship and going to the NCAA tournament and winning an NCAA game for the first time in 2017, really had that kind of building part where I talk about when a program works hard, the senior class behind the class before tries to outwork and outdo that senior class prior. And I felt
Yes,
like
sir.
we were really doing that.
Yes, sir. Before we continue into the success the program has achieved. Or talk about how you are able to run a Division III program like a Division I program.
Well, luckily, when I first got to Earlham as well, too, a lot has to do with people don't understand what we have now with Sadler Stadium and all the things that we have at our facility. But we didn't have that when I first got here. We played at McBride Stadium, a really cool ballpark with a lot of history, but it wasn't Earlham colleges. Richmond High School played in there, Seton Catholic played in there, the Richmond River Rats played in there. So let's just give you an example. If Earlham College is supposed to play there on a Tuesday, Richmond and Seton can't practice because we're on the field. Well, let's say it gets rain on Tuesday. Well, we can't actually move that home game to the Wednesday because Seton's in there or Richmond's in there. So we actually, my last year at McBride, we played 37 games in a row on the road because we couldn't either get on the field or the field wasn't ready for us to be able to play on. And so that's kind of what the tipping point was for us to really push for getting Sadler Stadium. So when I first got here, I started an alumni club where we would send out a mailing to all of our alums that were in the program that we really didn't know, and I would introduce myself and say, hey, here's what we're trying to do. Here's who I am. I'd love for you to be a part of what we're trying to do in this program. And so, we'd say for a T-shirt and a media guide, if you want to donate anything, go feel free to do it. So people would donate back, and one of our main donors, Randy Sadler, sent us a check for $500 the first year that I got this. And so I was brought up that if somebody gives you something, you make sure you thank them for that, no matter what it is. So if a person sent me $10 or sent me $500, I was going to thank him. So I called up Randy Sadler and thanked him profusely for what he was able to do for our coaching staff and our players to really help us be able to build this thing. Well, you fast forward to about 3 or 4 years later of us building a relationship, he's cutting a check for about $3 million for us to be able to build a stadium here that's going to set us apart from the competition.
Wow, and a nice stadium that it is.
We are extremely blessed, and I tell our players that all the time. Those who've played in front of you worked really hard to get this, and I don't want to take anything we have for granted. Our program motto has been and always will be earn, not given. Nothing in life is going to be handed to you. You're going to work for every single thing you get. So understand that we might have a lot of cool things in front of us right now, facility-wise and gear-wise and all those kind of things, but that was because of those who were here in front of you laid the groundwork for you to be able to have those types of things.
Yes, sir. Mentioned 2015, first time reaching the conference tournament. 2016, you get to the conference championship.
Championship.
Then 2017, you win the conference. Not only do you win the conference, you go into the NCAA tournament and upset the number 1 seed. Correct?
Worcester.
Talk about, first off, before we get to the NCAA tournament, just seeing the progress of getting to the tournament, and the next year you get to the championship, and then now the next year you win the conference tournament. What was that feeling like, not only for yourself as a head coach, but for the players, and just seeing the years and years of hard work that have finally paid off and winning Earlham's first ever conference championship in the baseball program?
Yeah, no, it was an amazing feeling. It was something surreal, something that I look back on all the time and realize how special that really was because of all those that were here in front of us at Earlham that weren't really able to do that. All the great teams in the conference as well, too, that were there that year and have been in the past that, you get one team that can come out of there that is a champion. And we were able to win not only the regular season, but the postseason championship. So it's an amazing feeling. It's something that, you can't take for granted and something that we're trying to get ourselves back to, but you realize how really hard it is. And to be honest with you, a little bit outside of baseball, but the way I'm seeing things is the exact same thing that is going with our volleyball team. Our volleyball team at Earlham, same thing. They made the conference tournament for the first time last year. This year made it to the conference championship, lost, had a little bit of a sour taste in their mouth, but had to see another team celebrate. I'm looking forward to hopefully next year they're going the same progression where they're winning the conference championship just the exact same way we did.
Yes, sir. That would be an incredible accomplishment, not only for the volleyball program, but for Coach Horton herself, who kind of has a similar road in taking a program that wasn't very successful, and now she has built it up to a very successful program. She'll be on the show in a couple weeks from now. Then you take the conference championship and you go into the NCAA tournament. And I've always said about baseball, you get the number 1 seed and stuff, but obviously in any sport anybody can be beaten. But the way I feel about baseball is just, you get your star pitcher. It might not be rolling for him that day, or you just put the ball in play and anything can go your way. How are you able to get your team to focus on the NCAA tournament? I would think after winning the school's first conference championship, that might take a little bit longer than the usual win to shake off and get ready for the NCAA tournament.
So, when the seedings come out, it's kind of like, you'd see on the, NCAA basketball, you get those seedings, and it came out, and we were the 8th seed in an 8-team regional. And that means basically we would be like team 64 or 65. if you're talking about an NCAA tournament in basketball. So we weren't given a lot of respect. So, we knew we had a lot of talent on that team. And so with that being said as well, too, I wanted our kids to get there early. So we were the second game of the day on day one there, and we got our team to the ballpark to watch pretty much that whole first game. And really, it was good for our kids to get there early because they watched the teams in front of us and basically said, well, these guys aren't that good. We're better than these dudes that are out there. So it kind of gave us a little bit of confidence, and again, with a little bit of a chip on our shoulder because we were the last seed, in that grouping and one of the, lower seeds in the whole country. We had nothing to lose. We weren't expected to win. They didn't expect much from us. So we go out there against Worcester, who, probably this year in 2019 is going to be the number one team in the country. That year they were, top 5 in the country and the number one seed in our region. And, going out there and beating them was just because, we had a little bit of a bulldog mentality more than, we're better than you and you don't think we're very good. So we're going to go out there and show you. And might have been overlooking us a little bit too.
That is possible. What did that say about the direction of the program once you got that? Some people say upset. I'm sure you and your team said that I wasn't upset. That's just another win. We move on. But what did it say, the direction of the program from where it was to where it was at that current time? That not only did we win a conference championship, but we made some noise in the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, it was hopefully opening some eyes about what Earlham College is about, what Earlham College baseball is about, and kind of going there that, we're not the Earlham of old. And I know a lot of the alums were excited about us beating Worcester because Worcester had been our main competitor in the NCAC before. So I got a lot of alums who were at Earlham at the time when they were in the NCAC that Worcester had beaten them all the time. Really excited about us just beating Worcester there. So it really is a great time for us to get our name out there in the region and in the national spotlight to be able to say, hey, Earlham baseball is for real. We're one of the better teams in the region, and Earlham College is taking athletics seriously because a lot of the negative recruiting that's out there from a lot of coaches that we go up against recruiting-wise in every sport that we have say to recruits that, Earlham doesn't take athletics seriously. Well, you know what? We do. We do take it seriously. We work our butts off here. We may have to work a little bit harder than other teams because we're not handed things like other schools can maybe get some things, but we work our butts off here, and we're going to be able to establish ourselves to be one of the best colleges in the country for both academics and athletics.
Yes, sir. Then, so 2018, 2019, haven't been able to get back to the conference tournament, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And you started, both years, the season started off real strong, just didn't finish the way you would have liked to see. So how, in this upcoming season, I know you did fall ball, but you haven't really got till January is when you guys really, really start. But how are you going to be able to get the team ready for this season and try to, get back up to the conference tournament that has eluded the last couple of years?
It's all about our players having the will, because at this level it's a lot about what they're able to do on their own more so than what we're able to do with them, because a lot of the time that they have is on their own, be it the weight program, be it the on the field stuff that they're doing, and they have to have a lot of internal motivation. I think the thing that hopefully will help us this year, we have 9 seniors. We have 9 seniors that are hungry. That senior class that I have right now were freshmen when we won that conference championship in 2017. So they've been there before. They Colin Greavy pitched in some big games. Kyle Gorman pitched in big games as a freshman. Jordan Christian as a freshman did the same thing. Danny Dopp. We got a great senior class of 9 players that are really talented, that I'm hopeful not only the field they're leading us, but what I'm seeing on the side there, how they're leading our younger players and saying, here's how we do things. That's what a real program's about. If it's only the coaching staff saying one thing and the players aren't echoing, you're not going to be very good. But I think our players buy into what we're about here, who we're about. We were very, we thought we underachieved last year. We underachieved the past 2 years, not making the conference tournament. We should be a team that should be in there every single year with a chance to win a conference championship. I don't care what team we have out there, who we have out there. We should be one of the best teams in our conference every year to give ourselves a chance to win a conference championship. I think our kids believe it. It's just a matter of, doing and trying. Everybody can try. Can you do? And our kids have to go out there and do and perform and understand that we're going to have injuries. We're going to have guys struggle. All these things are what's going to make a season, but the best teams can overcome those things, and how can we do that?
Yes, sir. I want to ask you about recruiting. I ask every coach about, because I think coaches are different in what they look for in recruiting. You mentioned earlier you like players that play multiple sports. You won't necessarily not recruit a player that only focuses on baseball. But how are you able to find kids that not only fit with the program, but are able to come in and help exceed the program from where it was from before the year they got there, and then getting it better from when they leave?
Yeah, so obviously it comes to evaluation of talent. So when we go on the road, we try to see as many kids as we can. And I'm a big regional recruiting guy where it means I want to be in front of those kids and see them as many times as possible. Not to say we won't recruit a kid from the coast to coast, from New Jersey to California, but I think one of the better selling points we have at Earlham College is Earlham College, and that's getting the kid here for the visit. And so that's why I work really within a 4-hour radius that a family can come here and leave in the same exact day, because everything I can tell them on the phone about Sadler Stadium, about our academics, about our wellness center, about the facilities that we have here can all sound great, but until you see them, you don't realize how good they are. So I got to get families here to see that part. So it's the main thing is going out, seeing kids, seeing them as many times as possible. But then also our best recruiters are our players. I don't hide. Some teams that we recruit up against hide their players from their recruits. I don't want to do that. The players that are, if a recruit's coming here, they want to speak to the players because those are the people that are going through everything that we're talking about right now. So I have our players involved, be it the tour, be it lunch, be it overnight, anything I can have to have our players be involved to make that recruit feel like, this is something I can be with. These are type of dudes that are similar to me, and I can fit this, culture, what we're trying to build here.
Yes, sir. And when you get players here, how are you able to use the recruiting experience you went through from going on visits to Xavier and FAU, and also and then making them feel at home here? And then how are you able to recruit the parents as well? That's another big aspect of recruiting, is getting the parents on board.
Yeah, so you want to, I take a lot of the aspects of how our visits went at the Division I level and what I was like as a player seeing on a visit to the same thing we're trying to do here. You want to make sure that you don't hide Earlham College from the recruit, because a lot of the time that they're going to be at Earlham College is a lot of the time they're away from baseball. Baseball is a big part of what they do here, but it's not everything they do here. So they've got to, I have them eat in the cafeteria and see the student body and understand what the classroom experience is going to be like here, because, Earlham's not a cake college. You're going to work your butt off in the classroom. They're going to make you write. If you have to understand that there's a lot of writing in here. You have to be able to have, supporting behind your opinion. You can't just state an opinion and not think that no one's going to question it, because they will question your opinion here, which is what I think is great, because I think Earlham sets us up for our kids and for you guys to be able to be like the real world, because there's going to be people in the real world that are going to have a totally different thought than you, and you might not agree with their thought, but you have to respect it. And that's what I think that Earlham does a great job is. So we want, from the athletic experience to the social to the academic, for them to fully encompass of what Earlham's about. And I think if they see all that and they love it, then they're going to be successful here. If I see a kid that comes here and they're only focused on baseball, they're going to struggle here, because baseball, again, is a big part, but it's not everything they do here. So they've got to be involved in the academics. And I think our kids and our students here really put the hard work in on both the field and in the classroom.
Yes, sir. How are you with, because coaches are different when you get recruits and, they'll say, oh, yeah, spots are open, which I'm sure spots are open. Some coaches like to guarantee playing time. What are you like when you sit down with the kid? Do you just say, are you the type that just, everything's got to be earned, you got to earn your playing time? Or say if there's a senior at a specific position, do you let them know that as well? Like, if you come in, you can still possibly get the job over them, but it's mainly likely if they perform to the best of their abilities, you'll be learning behind them for a year.
So I've never in my coaching career, nor will I ever guarantee a starting spot to anybody. If you come in and you guarantee a starting spot to somebody and they come in and they don't perform and then they don't start, you've already gone against your word. So, main thing is, if we've got a competitive team, every kid in the program has a chance to compete for a starting spot. And that's what's going to push the senior to be better, the junior, the sophomore, because that freshman coming in is talented behind them. And that's what makes us better here. What I will say is, if the freshman is better than the senior, the freshman's going to get that opportunity. If the senior's better than the freshman, the senior's going to get that opportunity. If they're equal, I'm going to go to the senior or the upperclassman that's been here before, just because they've been with me before. And I would hope that the younger player, when they're in that position as a junior or a senior, they would expect me to do the exact same thing for them if they're of equal ability there. But, we know, especially when you look at last year's team, was my first year ever coaching, that I didn't have a player play every game for us because of injuries and a lot of players not having the successful seasons they've had maybe years before. So we played a ton of different guys out there and tried to find lineups that worked there, and it didn't work out a ton for us success-wise last year, but it also gave us an opportunity to put guys out there, see what they can do, and realize, are they a guy that has a chance to compete every single day, or are they a guy that's going to be a role player for us? Because as I tell players all the time in our program, if you only like me because I play you, then there's something wrong with you.
Yeah.
We've got to make sure that our relationship, no matter if you play or you don't play, that we're on the same page. You might not be happy if you're not starting, but you see an opportunity that if I work hard and someone goes down, I'm going to get that next stop and spot in there. And if I work hard, Coach is going to take care of me on that part. But it can't be just I only like Coach if I play, or I don't like Coach if I don't play, because that's not the healthy relationship we want. I'm hoping that we're building a baseball family that, you want to be out there and play, but you also understand that my role, if it's right now to be a defender or to come in and pinch run or be a pinch hitter, and that's what's going to help us win, all I care about is winning, and that's all I want us to do. And so I try to preach that to our players all the time, that, believe me, if I could play every single one of you out there, I'd do it. The last thing I hate to do is not put someone's name in the lineup and know that they're upset. I hate that part of it, but it's what the competitive world, that's what we're in right now, and we're not going to hand out second-place trophies here. We're here about winning everything the big time, and we want our players to know that though your role might not be big, you're going to still have a role and help us win.
Yes, sir. And at the end of the day, as a competitor, it shouldn't be about being pissed off at the coach. It's about, you know what, time to buckle down, and I got to do
what do I have to do?
Exactly.
What do I have to do to get my opportunity out there? Is it I'm going to accept the role I have now, but I'm going to still work harder for a better role.
Yes, sir. Well, Coach Sakosits, I appreciate you coming on the show for me.
Appreciate it.
Had a lot of fun. For everybody who tuned in, thank you for watching.
Where'd I go to college?
Xavier.
There you go.
There we go. Appreciate you all tuning in. We will have more content up for you as soon as possible. Appreciate you tuning in to listen to Coach Sak's story about going to Xavier and then his coaching background here, not only at Defiance, but also at Earlham. And once again, I'd like to thank you all for tuning in to Untold Sports Stories with Gerardo Byrne. I'd like to wish you all a very good day, and we'll see you all again soon.